Hi, this is Yaro Starak. Welcome to another interview with an expert. This time I have a special guest who I've only just recently met. His name is Patrick Flynn, and I connected with Pat kind of by sitting on the other side of the mic. He interviewed me a couple of days ago, but prior to beginning the interview, I just read up a little bit about him, and he also talked about what he does, and it seems like Pat has an interesting story for us. I guess I could clarify for me, as is often the case. Pat mentioned that he's now making 6 figures online, which is always something that makes me curious, and I'm sure it makes you curious as a listener as well. So let's find out how he does that. So thank you for joining me, Pat.
Oh, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Okay, so obviously my blog at Entrepreneur's Journey has featured a lot of people who make money in different ways. I think you're the first person I've seen do what you do, but before we get into that, let's just get a brief background. Pat, how did you even get into internet marketing?
Well, kind of my first, the first time I got onto the internet was way back when AOL, America Online, started. And I don't know, I must have been in like 8th or 9th grade. And, I thought the internet was awesome. And, I was running the 14.4 kbps, and it was really slow, but I mean, I loved it, and I was just on the chats and stuff all the time. And then a couple months later, after I started doing that, my dad noticed that I had a bill from AOL for like $120. And I was like, I don't know what that's from. And then apparently someone stole our credit card number and rang up a bill from AOL. So then from that point, I was kind of really disgusted by the internet, and I thought it was a scary place. And so I wanted to stay off of it forever. But obviously, if you're not on the internet now, you're kind of, you're living under a rock or something. So, I mean, I got back on eventually. And once eBay came out, that's when I really got excited about just the thought of, being able to make money online. So, I sold all my baseball cards online, and, Magic the Gathering cards I sold online. Unfortunately, I wish I could get those back, but so after that, I was doing the blogging thing for a while, way back when Zanga. I don't know if you heard of Zanga before, but when Zanga started, everyone was just blogging about what they ate for lunch and the cool party last night. And this was when I was in college, so I was doing that for a while. So I really got used to kind of about writing about what I did online and stuff. And during my days in college.
What year was that? What era are we talking about?
That was 2001, I think. Okay, 2001.
So we're at the end of the dot-com boom. Or heading
we are at the end of the dot-com boom, yeah. So moving on, I was attending university at the University of California at Berkeley, and I was there with I was going under the architecture program. So I graduated from there in 2005 with a bachelor's in architecture. And I got a nice architecture job, and I loved what I did. I was doing the CAD drafting thing. I was designing, 3D spaces with all these cool programs and meeting cool clients, and I was loving it. And I actually got a really nice job in Irvine, California, Central California, as a job captain, and everything was good. I was working 9 to 5, and I loved it. But then, the whole economy thing happened, and they started letting people go. And, I was one of the last ones there. But then eventually the branch office that I was at folded, and then I left, and I didn't know what to do. I was really scared because just 6 months later I was supposed to get married, and I was partly responsible for paying for that wedding, and how was I going to support my family? I really didn't know what I was going to do. But luckily, right before I got laid off, I was actually taking a test for that architects and people in the design and building industry take called the LEED exam. It's LEED, which stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's a really specific test that deals, with green buildings and sustainable design and stuff like that. So I was actually blogging about that test, and the reason I was blogging about it was I just wanted a way to put my notes online so that I can read them during lunch at work and stuff. So after a couple months of doing that, I eventually passed the test. But then just for fun, I checked the statistics on the website, and I noticed that there were a couple hundred people visiting my website every day. And I got scared. I was like, well, what are these people doing reading my stuff? I was pretty new with how the internet worked and stuff like that. And just to give you time frame, this was a little over just a year ago. So I was like pretty brand new to how the internet worked as far as blogging and how to interact with people and social networking and stuff like that.
Wow, so it's been a very short story for the success you've had has been very recent.
Yeah, it really has. And so what happened was people just started going on my blog and reading my notes. And so I went on there and redid my notes to make sure that, they were really good because all these other people were reading them too. And I started to put, advertisements on there. I read, hey, you can make money from people going on your websites by putting Google AdSense on your website. So I was like, oh, cool. So I did that. And I was making maybe $20 a month, $25 a month. And I thought that was awesome.
Retirement.
Yeah, I was like, awesome. And this was right before I got laid off.
Right.
And then I got laid off, and I was still making, my only income was $25 a month from AdSense. And thank God for my wonderful followers on that blog, because 4 or 5 of them they emailed me and said, Pat, your information is so good, you should write a book. I would buy it. And I had to wait till the 5th person to do that. I don't know why. I was just really scared of doing business online, something I didn't know much about. And I did try to read up about it, and I was, following your blog and Darren's blog and a whole bunch of other websites to try and get as many tips as possible. And I kind of knew that I had an opportunity to do something big here. And I was searching for jobs, for 9-to-5 jobs, but it was to no avail. I mean, no one, even today, no one here in the U.S. is still hiring for architecture. They're still laying people off. It's quite sad, but I'm kind of glad I didn't get a job, because I joined a program called the Internet Business Mastery Academy, and that's run by 2 really special guys, Sterling and Jay. And they had a podcast that I had been listening to, just started to listen to get some tips, and they just came out with the academy. And they said, hey, we'll walk you through how to set up an internet business and stuff. And I took some of their advice. I actually wrote an ebook in a month or 2 and put it on sale. And in that first month, I actually launched it on October 1st, which was just a little over a year ago. I launched my ebook for $19.99. I didn't know how to price it, and I just put it out there. And that first month, I made $8,000 just from that book.
Wow, that's an amazing start.
And oh man, I jumped out of my chair when I first saw my first sale come through. I couldn't believe someone actually bought something from me that I wrote online, and sold to them. And then more sales just kept coming and coming, and I couldn't believe it. And it was seriously a lifesaver. Like the academy and all the tips I got from you and Darren and stuff, just from your blog posts and stuff like that. I incorporated that all into my blog and interacted with potential customers. And, I guess what happened was they saw me as an expert, because I was the only one, putting this kind of information online. And I wasn't an expert. I knew how to pass the test. I had passed it a few months back, but I didn't consider myself an expert. I still had to look stuff up sometimes. But just because I was that guy and I put something out there on sale, the rest is history. And so the month after that, another customer emailed me who had purchased my book, and he said, Pat, your book is really good, but it's way too cheap. And, I'm really fortunate that these guys are contacting me and telling me how I should run my business. If I could go back, I would have done everything right away without even them having to contact me. But he said, Pat, you're selling your book way too cheap. I would pay $60 for it. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I don't want to rip people off. And he's like, you're not going to rip people off. Your stuff is good, and it's cheaper than, going to Barnes and Noble and buying a book from there or something. And so I was like, okay, we'll give it a shot. So the next month I raised the price just $10, $29.95 actually. Cause I learned that having 95 instead of like 99 was a little bit better. I don't know. I just did that for fun, and it totally worked. The next month I made almost 10 grand. And then I got some suggestions from Sterling in the academy. He said, hey, why don't you do an audiobook? Have someone or you read off your book and then just combine it and sell it as a package. And, I was like, I don't know. And, but I ended up doing it. And the month after I launched my audiobook along with the ebook, I had grossed about $20K, so $20,000, and then I actually peaked at $30,000 in March of 2009. Just 1 month, $30,000 from one little product that I had an ebook for, and then I hired someone because I had enough money to read off the ebook, and I just combined that as a package and sold that for like around $50.
And it's been selling every month since then.
And it's been selling every month. I got a few sales today still. It's chugging along, and the best part about it is because of the way I learned internet business from scratch, and I didn't have anything, any prior knowledge of it. I set it up in a way it's very systematic and automatic. So, I got married in February, and the business was still going. And I went on my honeymoon. We went to Hawaii. And the only time I ever did anything with my business while I was in Hawaii was on my iPhone when I was in like the bathroom or something. So that's the only, like, I would answer customer emails then and whatever. But I think that week we were at Hawaii, I just calculated it out. I had earned maybe $8,000 or $9,000 that week in Hawaii, not even doing anything with the business really, and it's just going automatically. And I've kept learning all these tips about how to automate it even more and all this really cool stuff. So that's where I'm at today. And I started a blog to kind of go through my story and inspire people to that, it doesn't take a genius, doesn't take a rocket scientist or even an expert to do really well online.
Okay, so, well, I'd like to try and break down a little bit more what you did, but let's give people that blog address for them first.
Sure. It's at www.smartpassiveincome.com. And then that passive income part is kind of what I believe is like the coolest part about this whole thing. It's all running 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And it's like a store that's open to the entire world, all the time. And I don't even have to do anything. And we could talk about that more, about how exactly that works.
Where's the store so people can take a look at it while they're listening to you?
Oh, sure. It's greenexamacademy.com.
Greenexamacademy.com. Okay, yeah. So that's green and then EXAM and then academy.com.
Correct.
All right.
And the cool part was, when I started it, it was a WordPress blog. It was a free theme. And it was just content driven.
Well, actually, before let's break this down completely. How old are you now, Pat?
I am 26.
Okay, so we're in architecture. You, by nature of what you had to study in order to qualify to become an architect, you had to study this particular exam called the LEED exam, LEED.
LED, yeah. It wasn't a requirement. It was just kind of something I wanted to add on to my resume type thing.
So why do so many architects want to do this? Is it obviously if you're making these sales, a lot of people doing this exam, right?
Right, exactly. Well, lately, I don't know if you heard, but I mean, a lot of things are going green now. Sustainability. I mean, I know Australia is big on that right now too. Conservation and really, LEED is all about designing really smart buildings so that there's less carbon emissions. You're not using as much water or energy and stuff like that. So I knew, and obviously all of my customers know, that that's where everything is headed with the architecture industry right now.
Okay. So there's obviously a bit of a spike in this industry. So there's a rush of people getting interested in studying this area. It sounds like it's obviously extremely niche subject. It's like a niche within a niche. It's a study program within architecture.
It is, and when I tell people my story, they're like, "You made that much from that?"
Right, and this is an interesting thing, and I'm actually quite curious to hear more about your traffic numbers, but I want to get to that in a sequence so we can help people. So, you were let off, you were fired, the economy in the United States has been obviously pretty bad, and in sort of year 2008, 2009, a lot of people losing jobs, you're one of them, and within 12 months of that, you were able to create a six-figure, plus income through essentially selling one and then a different version of the same information product online, which is a pretty incredible result. So you said you started with a WordPress blog. Can you maybe put together more of the pieces? Did you have technical help, or did you set this up yourself? And how did you get the content for this site, and how did you even think about designing a website in the first place?
Well, I had known that, I could put information on a blog, at home or whatever, and then I could go somewhere else and pick up that information again. That was the only reason why I started the blog in the first place, was that so I could look up my study notes online, because I was really good at typing, and I did that really fast, and I was really good at organizing information on text on the screen, as opposed to writing. My handwriting is like chicken scratch. So
it was an archive system just for your own use to begin with.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Yeah, it was just basically an archive system for me.
You learned how to install WordPress yourself?
I did, and you know what? It took forever. I like to figure things out, take things apart and put them back together and figure things out. And, it took a long time to install WordPress. I did some research, figured out that there was a couple hosting websites out there. I run through Bluehost.com, and they have a control panel with a one-button WordPress install. And that's what I finally ended up doing. And before, I was trying to go through GoDaddy and trying to find a host for that. And I just tried to make it really hard for myself. But I ended up finally just going with the one-click WordPress install on Bluehost.com.
Okay, easy. So you start putting your content into this blog. And I presume, even though you probably weren't aware of it, you started to get search engine results because you were putting something on the internet, right? So
that's exactly what happened. And I didn't know how that was happening at first. It was just kind of a surprise to me. I had downloaded this WordPress plugin called WP Stats, the first day, because it was like I read a top 20 plugins to put on your blog thing somewhere, and that's one of them I put in, but I didn't even know what it really did. And then when a couple months later, after I was pretty much finished putting up all my notes and stuff, I saw huge spikes in my traffic, and I had no idea how that was happening. And then, there's a little spot that says where they come from. A lot of them were from Google and search engines and stuff like that. And a lot of them were from other sites that put them on my that link to me too. So obviously I know now that when people put links to my site, that creates a backlink for me, which increases my search engine optimization even more. So it was just kind of like a little tiny snowball, and it just kind of got bigger, bigger, bigger. I eventually started ranking pretty high in all the keywords that were relevant to the exam. So whenever someone searched for it, they found me. I think there's a lot of other companies out there that kind of do the same thing. They have study guides and stuff, but I think because mine was it was just a blog. They knew it was from one person who wasn't trying just to make money off of them. I wasn't even selling anything in the beginning. I just had information. So it's pretty crazy. Like I look back and I consider myself one of the luckiest people ever, and like I said, I didn't know what I was going to do, and it kind of just fell into my lap, and I feel very fortunate to be where I am today. And that's kind of why I started smartpassiveincome.com, because that's my way of kind of giving back and, showing that good things can happen.
Well, let's see if we can help some other people follow in your footsteps with the rest of the story. So you set up the blog, you've put your notes in there, you're getting an audience. How many people a day are visiting? Are we talking about 100, 1,000, 10,000? The lead exam is completely new to me, so I have no idea how many people would need information about that.
Right. Well, after I started noticing all that traffic, I was getting, and this was like 4 or 5 months after I had started the blog, maybe 40 to 50,000 visitors a month.
Okay, so a little over 1,000 a day.
Yeah.
And that's unique visitors?
That was, I think I finally set up Google Analytics because I knew I had to keep track of stuff. And I found out that about half were loyal returning visitors and half were new at that time.
Okay. Great. So that's fairly significant. That's I guess a slightly above average result for a 6-month-old blog to already have 1,000 visitors a day.
I think obviously blogs rank really well in search engines, and it was it was a fairly new thing. Like no one, you still haven't even heard of it until today. and people are still finding out about it, you know, in the industry today too. So it was pretty new. It's not like trying to get a new blog up in a how to make money website or something like that.
I'm curious, with your notes, did you drip feed them over time? It's kind of funny because you didn't really start out as a blogger blogging. You used it more as a tool to put content as an
yeah,
archive,
actually,
so.
It was just, you know, the first day I went through the first chapter pretty much and kind of just bullet pointed my notes and put some little helpful tips that I would help me remember stuff. And then the next day, maybe I do 2 or 3 chapters, and the next day after that. And then I ended up putting, like, charts together for myself and stuff. And it's, you know, I was really thinking about it because it was something that I wish I had available to me, but it wasn't. So I just created it myself. But I just happened to do it in a way that it was accessible to everyone else. So, yeah, it was kind of just, you know, it wasn't like a one thing per day. And I didn't even set it up where the latest post was shown at the top, like in the featured area. It was just, I actually made the home page a static page and just manually, you know, took the link from the new post, which was the next chapter that I did, and I placed it in the home static page, and just kind of created like a little table of contents for myself. And that, you know, I probably did a lot more work than I should have. And I've learned now that if you could set everything up correctly at the beginning, you're going to save yourself a lot of time. But at the same time, you shouldn't have to wait for everything to be all set up and perfect before you give yourself the go. But yeah, I did a lot of work, and now looking back, if I knew what I was doing, I probably would have hired someone to do it in a day or two, you know?
Yeah, I think everyone says that, but it's worth noting for people that there is a very obvious benefit of going through the process yourself like you did, even if it's not your strong point.
Yes,
exactly. It's getting that general awareness of how web pages work. Like, you can find out by doing this, all right, I'm never going to do it again because I was going to hire someone to do my technical things for me. But at least trying to struggle your way through the first time gives you that awareness. So, you know, if you're going to tell people how to set things up for you, you kind of at least have a general idea of how to do that. So, you know, I don't recommend people struggle for the rest of their lives, but certainly you know, having a shot at it once and seeing whether you can get somewhere, it can be worth it.
Yeah, definitely. That's good advice.
Now, I'm curious how you went from, you know, having all this content which you released for free on a website, and then how did you get content for a book? Did you sit down and just open up Microsoft Word or Pages in Mac and just type a more thorough document?
Actually, the way it worked was, you know, I had all my blog posts up already, and I just I mind mapped it out, created kind of a small outline of how I wanted to use that content in a book, how I would want to see it if I were a customer, and, you know, what made sense as far as the material and the exam and stuff and the order that it went in. And I just sat down in Microsoft Word, punched it out, and 90% of it is the same that was on my website. That's the thing that a lot of people are like, what? You gave away, or you sold information that people could get for free. What? You know, and and I was like, yeah, you know, and people will pay you for it, obviously, because it's organized, and 2, that, you know, that you can have access to it at any time on any computer. You don't have to be online, but that's not a big deal. But people will just pay for it because it's good material, and they're not going to want to sit through a blog and click every single, you know, next, page 1, page 2.
And that's a good point for anyone who's written a successful blog who has an audience. You could take your content, make it a little bit more organized and concise, and that could be your ebook right there. And people will buy it just because, for those reasons you said, it's easier to access, it's easier to download, it's easier to print, it's easier to read through. You can take it offline much easier. It's a one-hit solution, which is always a quick fix, which people prefer. So, go ahead.
I was going to say, there's a lot of websites out there that are kind of doing the same thing. They're kind of pulling their favorite blog posts, or, you know, there's a couple websites that, you know, do, you know, like comedic type posts every day, and they come out with a real book that just, you know, is their top posts or whatever, you know.
Yeah, I've seen a few of those in bookshops too. Yeah. How did you, I'd like to make this really relevant for anyone who wants to actually create an ebook. How did you take a Microsoft Word document and make that into a book you could sell online?
Well, all you have to do is Well, there's a lot of free PDF converters out there, actually. I can't think of them off the top of my head. I'll have to research that. Maybe you could put it in the notes or something. But, I mean, it's really easy to just take a Word file or a doc file and just put it on that website and then press OK, and then it spits out a PDF for you. And that's something you can sell. I had Acrobat Professional on my computer as well. So it basically just did the same thing as those websites and stuff.
Right. So because you're an architect, you really had to have Adobe Acrobat.
Yeah.
Prior to that. So, I mean, even Adobe Acrobat, how much is that software? It's several $100s, isn't it, for the full version? Yeah. I know. I've actually tried to use free PDF printers, as they're called. They create a Word doc and they take it into a PDF. But I found a lot of them have issues with either putting a watermark on there, or they don't print page numbers, or they don't make links active, just little tiny things that kind of annoy me. So I found actually Acrobat was the best one, or if you're a Mac user, you're in luck, because Mac will just print it out straight away using the inbuilt preview function that all Macs come with. But there's certainly no shortage of possible solutions to create a PDF.
Yeah, or you could pay someone $10 to convert it for you. Yeah. It's not that's
tiny job.
That's something you definitely have to know, but it's not very difficult to do.
Yeah. So you've got your book; it's in PDF. Now, how did you come up with a system to sell it? Did you have to have a sales page? Did you have to get a shopping cart? Did you integrate it with your existing website, or buy a new domain name? Can you tell us the next step and how you even learned this part?
Oh, sure. Actually, as I was writing my book, I knew that I would have to figure that out, obviously. I didn't know before I started it, but I knew I had to finish the book. And if I did finish the book, that would motivate me to get off my butt and figure out how to do that. Luckily, I had been in the academy, the Internet Business Mastery Academy, for a while, and they had some tools there, like one shopping cart and stuff like that. But I did a little bit more research, and I found out that e-junkie.com was a really good resource for exactly what I needed to do, which was sell an ebook on my website. And you don't have to have a new domain name or anything like that. You can just upload your ebook to eJunkie. They host it on their webpage, and honestly, it only costs $5 a month. And back at the time when I was starting this, I thought that was a lot of money. I was like, I don't want to pay $5. I don't even know if this is going to work, but in order to know if it's going to work, you have to try it out, and you might have to spend a few dollars here. Luckily, we're not setting up a brick and mortar business, or we don't need venture capitalists to do the things that we're doing. So, it's really easy just to spend $5. So I spent $5, uploaded my ebook on there. You go through a little thing where you title your book. You can set the price. You can put coupon codes in, and you just press OK, and it spits out a button that you just put on your website. And it's just like a little HTML. You go in WordPress and you go in the visual area, and then you Control V it or whatever, and it goes on there. Yep, copy paste. And then it's on there. And then when you go to your website, that button's there. And whenever someone clicks it, boom. It's taken to eJunkie's shopping cart. And then when they pay for it, it gets automatically delivered to them. And you automatically get paid. And the best thing about that is you're nowhere involved in that equation. As I was talking about before, setting up in a passive way where you don't even have to be there, is powerful, especially because you can do it all the times of the day. And secondly, it's scalable. That's another thing about passive income is this kind of passive income is it's scalable. If 2 people ordered my book, or 200 million people ordered my book, which would be awesome, but
retirement for sure then.
Yeah. No matter how many people buy it, eJunkie is going to do its thing automatically for me. I don't have to spend any more time to sell to more people. So that's something really important. If you're finding that you have a business where the more you sell, the more work you have to do, then you might want to try and see if there's a way where you can, figure out how you can get it so that it's scalable and it doesn't require you to do more work to sell more things. But anyways, I'm getting a little off topic here, so I'm sorry. So I had eJunkie on there, and
let's just spell that out one more time for people. It's
sure. It's e-junkie JUNKIE.com.
Okay.
I think they're partners with PayPal. So if you have PayPal, it integrates very nicely with eJunkie, and then your payments just go to PayPal.
And I assume you, by this stage, had no problem paying that $5 a month fee using your credit card. You got over that initial experience with AOL from many years ago.
Yes, I did. So my next step, I figured out how to put the button on my website, but I can't just stick a button on my website. I got to put it on a sales page. And I had experience with sales pages through buying, courses that I've started to go through, like the Internet Business Mastery course and stuff like that. So I knew kind of what it had to look like. I didn't understand how it worked or why it worked because, you always see those really long sales letters, but they do work. I actually picked up a book on Amazon by Yannick Silver called Moonlighting on the Internet. And that book was awesome. That's one of my favorite books. And that actually has a sample sales page letter that you can just pull out and use on your own website. And, it has the H1 very bold title that you put in, and he tells you exactly how you should structure it. And then, the subtitle, and then how you use your testimonials and case studies and all that stuff, and offering a bonus and stuff. I thought that was the cool part. So I pretty much just copied that from the book. And, a few other elements of it is, like I was talking about the bonus. I didn't have a bonus. There was no one in the industry I could really hook up with to try and, JV with to get a bonus.
It's a very tiny niche, isn't it?
So, yeah. So what I did was I just took a couple of the chapters out. I had like a top 10s thing that I put in there, top 10 tips to pass the lead exam in my ebook. I just took that out and stuck it back in as a bonus. I don't know if that's like cheating or something, but,
No, it's just the repositioning of how you give your content, really, isn't it? So.
Yeah, exactly. And it totally works. I mean, and then I also did like the 30-day guarantee and stuff like that. And even like it's almost word for word.
I'm looking at your Green Associate Exam study guide sales page. I presume if I click the study guides link on your greenexamacademy.com site and I go through to the page, I mean, obviously you mentioned the word long sales page. Yours is not a long sales page by any stretch of the imagination.
Yeah, it's not long, but it's not just everything above the fold.
No, it's not like two paragraphs and a buy now button. It's, I guess you could say it's the highlights from the typical sales page, some testimonials, some nice big buttons, some dot points. But really, in terms of a sales page, this would, anyone could set this up. It's certainly not, 20 scroll lengths of a page, lots of graphics, lots of pictures of, proof and people smiling faces. You just got a few testimonials, a few pictures of what's inside the product, some dot points, and boom, you're making, $8,000 in the first month you put this out there. So,
yeah, it was ridiculous, and I couldn't believe it. All that stuff, all that internet marketing tips you hear online, it really does work.
Okay. So that, I guess, we pretty much completed the picture then. So you created the ebook, you had a PDF made of it, you went to eJunkie to upload it there, they gave you a link so you could actually take money for the book and they would deliver it for you. You wrote this sales page, you pasted that code from eJunkie in there so they could just buy it straight through there.
Yep.
Then do you launch it? Did you just basically write a post to this Green Academy web account?
That's what I did. I mean, now I know about the product launch formula and stuff like that, but I didn't know anything about that. So all I did was kind of took what I knew that other sites did, which was, create like a blog post about it to promote it, which is what I did. And then I made that link on my homepage. And I also created banner advertisements for myself on my own page. So that's what I did. And I think if you go to the website now, you can see one on the upper right-hand corner. Yeah. And that one actually turns out to be a really, really high click-through rate. And then I also promoted it at the end of remember how before I was talking about I wrote notes for like the different chapters and stuff.
Yep.
At the bottom of each of those, I always put like, hey, check out this book. It'll make studying a lot easier for you and stuff like that. And, I kind of did a lot of this stuff backwards, but it worked, And if you can go into something knowing what you're supposed to do, unlike me, which was kind of just going to the deep end and not doing it, doing it blindly, then you can do even better than me.
Okay, well, that's a fairly simple process. And then when you went to create the audio version, you just did the same thing with eJunkie, I presume?
Yeah, exactly. So I had to zip it because the MP3 files were quite large. But, you just create a zip file, put them all in there, and it's the same thing. At that time, I basically had 3 products on sale. I had my ebook by itself, I had my audiobook by itself, and then I had the ebook and the audio together for obviously a little cheaper price so that more people would be more inclined to buy that one.
Simple. All right. I think, Pat, what I guess might be missing here, or what we can talk a little bit more about, we can talk about automation in a second because I can see you're really interested in that. But for people out there who, there's a lot of people who try to sell ebooks, and the kind of success you're talking about, they might be very frustrated because they've done exactly the same thing you've done, except for all kinds of reasons, no one's buying their book, or maybe they're selling one a week, and while you're selling, obviously, lots more than one a week. Mm-hmm. What is it that's special about this little case study, this experience you've been through, especially given that I'm assuming this is the first project you've had on the internet as well? And it's very quick. You've had this within 12 months, which most people don't get there. What's special about what's happened to you think?
Well, there's a few things. I think the thing that with my website is I put myself out there. I'm the guy who creates this stuff, and I'm here to help these people. And I'm sure a lot of other people out there do that too. But I take that a step further, and part of what's helped my website become so popular is because I have a brand that people know about because I go to forums and I go to different blogs and I help people out, and people know me, or they knew me then, as that guy who gave all the great information, and that's one thing I've learned, and I've heard in many courses and stuff like that since doing internet business is, one tactic is to go into these forums and help people. You don't want to go in and just sell stuff, or, you're just going to get booted off the forums, or, your comment's not going to get approved by the blog owner or anything like that. So what you do is you go to these websites and, you don't even mention your product. All it is like in your little signature at the bottom of your forum post. That's where it says, "Hey, for more information about the exam, click here." And then that's where I got. That was a big thing for me, and I became known as that guy who helped people with the lead exam. So when they told people about it, or when other people they knew had questions about it, they knew exactly who to say. And Green Exam Academy was the place to go.
Okay, so you built a profile around a very specialized topic that you knew a lot about. You gave away a ton of, basically, all your free information you gave. And it's funny, most people say, give away most of it. You pretty much gave everything away on the blog and then just put it together in a different format to sell.
Yeah, pretty much.
You created a brand, a profile, and several other community sites around the same subject area. Very focused, very specific. You know the subject really well yourself. You're obviously capable of teaching it. And there's enough demand for it in terms of people searching and trying to get help that you have a constant stream of customers as well for the product. So I guess in a nutshell, those are the key ingredients. Ingredients are an audience of significant size that are actively searching for what you have and actively discussing about it at other websites, your own interests and experience in the area, and then basically willingness to get out there and give away a lot of help for nothing in return in order to build that profile and traffic ultimately as well. So that
exactly. And like you said, finding out what your audience wants is probably the most important thing, and that can come with keyword research, finding out what people are typing in Google, or going into forums and seeing what they're asking about.
Or getting an email like you had from 5 people.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, I should have just took that first one and let it be that, but I had to wait till 5. So I was really fortunate about that. If I could go back, and like we were talking about connecting with people and giving information for free, I would have, if I knew what a webinar was, then I would have done that. And, just pull people in, give them information, get them to know me and hear my voice and see slides and stuff like that. They always say, give away your best information for free, and then they're going to want to buy whatever it is you're going to have to sell.
All right, and then I think this is a very easy situation to replicate. Probably the challenge for people is finding enough of a demand in something they're good at, just making sure those two things cross over. But you won't know, like you had no idea going into this that this would be the end outcome. It's,
yeah.
Okay.
And kind of really establishing yourself as that expert. I like I said, I wasn't an expert, but I became the expert in people's eyes. And then I really thought I was the expert because so many people were coming to me. So then, I had to change my mindset and from not being an expert to, yes, I am the expert. Here's all this awesome information. Come see me.
Okay. So before we wrap up the interview, maybe just quickly you want to talk a little bit about what you've done so that you can actually sit in Hawaii and basically only have, a session on the toilet with your iPhone is the kind of work you have to do. Like what have you found? Obviously you mentioned eJunkie. That's a good little automation system for delivering and taking the money for your ebook. What else have you done to make this easier for yourself?
Well, okay. As far as the product is concerned, eJunkie is pretty much the whole engine behind it. It accepts their credit cards. It pays me, and then it sends them an email with where to download the ebook or audio guide, whatever they're purchasing. That's pretty much the cycle. But obviously, we have to get people to my website as well, and that's automated as well because of search engine optimization and ranking really high in keywords, which just came naturally through all the blog posts and of the chapters I did because there's related vocabulary in there that's pertinent to the subject. But yeah, if you can get search engine optimization on those keywords that people are going to look for, and have a system like eJunkie, I mean, there's other ones out there. But having something like that in place, selling a product for you, then it's just going to keep going and moving for you, and then you won't even have to touch it at all. With search engine optimization, that kind of happened naturally for me just because of the vocabulary that was on the different blog posts that I wrote. But if you can get search engine optimization, and if you can work on that and work on making your keywords rank really high, and you're going to see that cycle of people are naturally going to go from keyword search to your blog or website or whatever to your products, and it's just going to all happen underneath you. And the only thing that you're involved in is accepting the money, which is really cool. But there's obviously you can't walk away totally from your business. You got to keep an eye on it. And there's a few things that you should be doing while it's still automatically running underneath you, which is like testing and stuff like that. I've done a lot of testing on different colors of what works best, which has the highest conversion rates, the different ad copy on the sales page and stuff like that. So I'm using Google Optimizer for that, and I run a split test like every month on certain things. And the coolest thing I found out was actually a tip from Ryan Dice, which was, if you go on my sales page at greenexamacademy.com, you'll see that big add to cart button there. Mm-hmm. That was a tip from Ryan Dice that I found, and he calls it his magic button. I think he has this product called 43 split tests or something like that, and that's one of them he shares with us for free. And he said, check this out. This is the highest converting button you'll ever find. We did, hundreds of tests on different colors, fonts, and, there's different pictures you could put along with it, button sizes, everything. And this was it. So I put that on there, and, that alone made sales increase over 20%.
So you're talking this one with the red dashed outline, the orange add to cart, and the credit card pictures underneath it.
Yes, and then having an original price on there crossed out, showing a lower price, all these really cool things. And I love internet business now. I love how just little things like that can drastically change conversion rates and how much money you're making. And it's ridiculous. I mean, it's kind of crazy how just a color or something can have an effect, but it really does. So that kind of just shows you have to pay attention to everything and pretend you're a consumer on your website and go through it and see if you could notice anything that, kind of turns you off or something that you would have liked to see instead. But so testing was something that I'm constantly doing, even though my business is running underneath me. And obviously, I'm answering emails sometimes. One of the drawbacks with eJunkie is the emails are sent automatically. Sometimes people have spam or junk filters on their end, so they don't get the email. So, I mean, 100% of the time they email me back, and I have a landing page after they. You could set it up so that they go to a specific landing page or thank you page back on your website after they purchase your products. And I specifically mentioned if you don't get an email within the next hour, please email me because or also please check your junk folder, or if not, please email me. And sometimes I have to deal with that, and that's mainly what I was doing, on the John in Hawaii.
All right, that's awesome stuff, Pat. Let's wrap it up. For people who are interested in first just seeing the website that has all these things we just talked about on where you make most of your money from, one more time, that's what address?
Sure, that's www.green, like the color, greenexamacademy.com.
Okay, so we can find the products you sell there, the book, the audio.
Feel free to roam around and just check it out. I'm still running tests today on it, so things might change every once in a while. But that's it. That wasn't the free WordPress theme. I actually just paid someone a couple of months ago to really update it, and it looks a lot nicer than it did. But it was still making good money on a free WordPress theme that I downloaded when I first started. And
really, the design you have now could be running off WordPress too, right? Or is it?
It is running off WordPress,
okay.
Yeah.
So, right, it's just a designed WordPress. Great. And your current, I guess, more passionate subject, which you like writing about, which is passive income. What's the blog for that?
Sure. It's www.smartpassiveincome.com. And you can also find me at twitter.com/PatFlynn. I'm always answering the replies there, so feel free to drop me a line. And yeah, Yaro, thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
No problem, Pat. It's good to hear your story. It's always motivating for people, I think, especially for those people who might have lost a job in the last 1 to 2 years. Your story of how quickly you got there and how very specific a subject area you've done it with, and how very simple. Really, it's one product, basically, one website, one product, and where you went. So that's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I like to say, the harder you work, the luckier you become. And I think all the hard work I did at researching everything and setting up the website, it's all paying off now, I'm just sitting back and watching it happen. So don't get discouraged if you're not doing a lot right now, but just do something, put a lot of work in it, and you're going to see good things happen if you stay with it.
All right. Awesome stuff. Thank you for taking the time to do this.
You're welcome. Thanks, Yaro.